Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Dwinnells, and with me tonight, returning once again, Mr. Brian Toney.
Hey! Who apparently has lost his voice.
Just learning how to use his voice.
Yeah, I haven't spoken in 7 weeks.
Well, it's good to have Brian back here. You were here not too long ago, I guess. I forget what we talked about.
It feels like forever.
What did we talk about, actually?
Again, do not remember.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, it was the depressing one. I got really sad because it was about people who, died putting up Halloween decorations.
Yeah, that's right. When Halloween decorations become too real.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
I just said 2 words incorrectly, but I'm going to move on like I did not.
Keep it.
Yeah. So, that actually reminds me of something. So, some people are probably wondering where Tom has been. Because Tom was doing, basically every other episode. Until, I don't know. I guess it's been a little while now, but...
Hey, Eric.
He'd been around, yeah.
Where's Tom been?
Well, there is a reason Tom hasn't been on.
But we're not going to say it
He
specifically?
knows what he did.
Fair enough.
No, that's not true. There's been no falling out between me and Tom, but he does have some stuff going on, and I'm going to let him come by sometime and explain to everybody just where exactly he's been.
I started a competing podcast. It's doing very well.
All right. I will use this time to tell everyone to visit the website spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place, and that is the show's blog page, where you can find every episode, and you can also find pictures and sometimes outtakes and sometimes related YouTube videos and stuff like that. You can also find links to our social media. We are at spookyasshit on both Twitter and Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyas.
Nice.
Now, Brian, imagine this, if you will.
Ooh, I'm going to use my imaginer.
You are a police officer.
I don't like it.
In Arizona, if that helps.
Worse?
In 1975.
Push.
And a group of lumberjacks.
Okay, now it's good. Good.
6 of them, to be exact.
Okay.
Come running up to you.
What's the proper term for a group of lumberjacks? A timber? All right, go ahead.
They come running up to you, and they say, Officer Toney.
Yeah.
We have a problem here.
Okay.
We were coming back from our logging trail.
Yeah.
And our friend, Travis.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we saw this thing in the sky.
Okay.
And our friend Travis got out of the truck.
Yeah.
To investigate, right? And we told him not to, but he did anyway. And then this beam came out of the thing, and he went up in the air, and it threw him down. And we ran because we were afraid of this beam, but then we went back and tried to find him, but he wasn't there. And we decided we had to come in right away and tell you what's going on. But that's what happened.
Okay. Let me type it up on my invisible typewriter. No, that's a good story. I'm in already.
All right. Well, so that is the beginning of the story of Travis Walton, famed alien abduction guy. And also, yeah?
Well, you're saying that, he reappears in the story eventually?
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay. I don't want to spoil anything.
That's right. But this is the story that is the basis for the film Fire in the Sky.
I have not had the pleasure. Have you?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
But not really probably since it came out in 1993.
All right. It's like a Close Encounters sort of thing?
Like a scary Close Encounters.
Oh, okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah. I was very, very young and probably should not have seen it.
Probably not.
But I did. All right. So here's the story. All about how Travis got turned upside down.
Apparently.
Like I said, the story does start with these lumberjacks. I don't know if that's the technical term they would use, but they go out to the woods, they cut trees down, and yeah, that's what they call themselves, loggers. Yeah. Is there a difference between lumberjacks and loggers? Probably.
Honestly, I could not tell you.
Yeah,
you should put that in the bonus materials.
Yeah. I wouldn't know, but maybe someone out there knows.
Lumberjack sounds more romantic, like cowboy, whereas logger is just, that's a job.
All right.
Deforester.
You hear that, lumberjacks? What you do is not a job. According to Brian Toney.
Hey, you can self-identify as whatever you want.
So Yeah, so Travis Walton is a logger, and he's out on a crew with several of his buddies. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. When I was trying to do research for this topic, I went to Wikipedia, of course, and I went to some other websites, including Mr. Walton's own website.
Great.
So, yeah, he does survive, and he makes a website
Spoilers.
that you can visit. Travis-Walton.com, I believe. And the thing is, like, I tried to find some YouTube videos of him explaining exactly what happened, and you can find them. They're out there.
Yeah.
But he is, perhaps, the worst storyteller. The only rival he has is my brother Dan. He does the exact same kind of things. I'm going to play a clip of it.
Okay, I can't wait. That actually works in his favor to me. Because he seems to have... People have seemed to listen to him despite his terrible telling of his story.
Yeah, but he's famous.
Yeah, but they weren't, like, enraptured by his silver tongue.
No.
Yeah, all right.
Because, like, I'm going to play an example.
Okay.
And they'll be hearing it right now.
I noticed this light up to our right. The road we were on was paralleling the ridge going south back up towards the rim road. And the crest of the ridge was to our right and a little higher than the road itself. But when I noticed this light coming through the trees, it wasn't like immediately it was so alarming that everybody said, "What's that?" I was looking, and before I said anything to anybody else, one by one, all these little conversations that were going on amongst the crew dropped off, and everybody was looking in the same direction. And we were wondering what that was, and it was deer hunting season, so I thought that maybe there was some hunters camped there.
You could stop paying attention for 10 minutes
and
be exactly where you left off.
I hope he was really good at cutting down trees.
So anyway, it's really, the research for this episode was a little bit rough, but I did take the thing that I was most interested in is the description of the aliens and everything. So that's what I took like verbatim from his book.
Okay.
And which is excerpted on, is that the word?
Excerpted?
Yeah, excerpted.
That sounds wrong too, though.
Whatever that word is, from his website. Basically, in the beginning, he's talking about how him and his logging crew were out on a day's work, and the sun had gone down, and then at 6 o'clock it was quitting time. So all the men come back with the chainsaws and whatnot, and they all get into the company truck, which could hold all 7 members of this crew. But as they're driving out of the forest, this is in a place called Snowflake, Arizona, by the way.
I love it.
In 1975.
Yeah, that's great.
As they're driving out of the forest, they see this light in the sky. And at first, they don't really think anything much of it. They just think it's the sun, like, caught in a weird way between the trees.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, wait a minute, because the sun went down, like, an hour ago.
Yeah.
So that's not the sun. So what is that thing?
I don't know.
So they decide to drive, like, a little bit closer. And they pull up, and they say they get about 15 feet away. And this thing is floating. At different times in his story, he reports that it's either floating about 20 feet above the ground or perhaps 35 feet above the ground.
Okay.
And they say that it is a golden object. And this is, here's an exact quote from Mr. Walton. He says, "I estimated the object to have been an overall diameter of 15 or 20 feet. It was 8 or 10 feet thick." I don't know what he means by thick, but thick.
Sounds saucery.
The flattened disc had a shape like that of 2 gigantic pie pans placed lip to lip with a small round bowl turned upside down on the top.
Yeah, very saucery. Classic saucer.
So it's your classic flying saucer. But he says it was golden,
okay.
not silver.
I mean, yeah, upscale.
And that it emitted a yellow glow.
Cool.
That looked rather like the sun, they said.
Neat.
So Travis, for some reason, decides he's going to get out and investigate. Actually, the some reason is he says that he just was like, well, this seems like a once-in-a-lifetime mystery kind of thing, and I want to see what I'm looking at here, and well, who knows what wonders this thing holds, and I'm going to go look at it. So he decides to quickly but cautiously creep up on this thing. And that is how he, I know it sounds funny, but that is how he describes it in the book. He's like going behind logs and like creeping around, but moving quickly, he says.
Yeah.
And he starts to hide behind the log.
Sneaking up on the saucer.
Yeah. But as he's hiding, the thing begins to like gyrate. And they hear like mechanical noises. That's about as descriptive as he gets.
Yeah. It's a little broad, but okay.
Mechanical noises.
Yeah, you know.
And
like things that have moving parts.
And it starts to turn like the two separate halves start to rotate. Right?
Cool.
So then he's like, this is creepy. And all of his buddies back in the truck are like, Travis, don't be an idiot. Get back here. Get back to the truck. We're getting out of here.
Pretty sound.
Yeah. And Travis had been pretty bold, but now he's like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I should probably get out of here. So as soon as he stands up, the saucer shoots out a blue beam of light.
Blue and gold. Good scheme.
Yeah. So it hits Travis, and his friends say that he looked like he was in a trance, and that he was being held, like, kind of looked like almost by the chest, like his head was flopped back and his arms were back and his legs were a little bit back.
Yeah.
But he says he didn't feel like he was under anybody else's control or anything at the time. He just remembers feeling pain, like he'd been electrocuted or something.
Yeah.
So the beam picks him up, and then it throws him. Now he says it threw him about 10 feet, and he landed on a rock. The witnesses sometimes, some of them say it was more like 20 feet, but they agree that he landed on a rock, and they all thought, well, he's dead. That guy's dead.
That's brutal.
So we're going to leave now. So that's what these brave lumberjacks do.
Well, if you actually think he was dead, I don't know. Come
suppose,
back for him.
There's a little wiggle room.
Let's not get dead ourselves. I can get behind that, I guess.
Okay, so they drive off, and as I said earlier, in the story that they tell the cops, they're like, no, we should probably go back. Some of them are, and some of them don't want to go back at all.
We just wanted to tell you.
So they decided to start a fire and like a little campground, and the ones who didn't want to go back could stay there, and then the other ones would go and search. And they went and searched, and they couldn't find them, so then they went into town. Now, Travis, for his part, he wakes up in this little triangular white room. And he doesn't remember what just happened. Like, he's just like, what the hell? And he's like, wait, I remember I was in the woods and I fell or something. Like, something happened. I must be in the hospital. But this is a really weird looking hospital room. It's triangular. There's some kind of thing on my chest.
Mm.
And then he sees what he thinks are doctors coming in. But it's all, his vision's blurry, he says.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, these doctors seemed kind of weird because they were all like pretty short, But I was just like, oh, I don't know. I guess they're here to help me. But then, like, as his vision grew clearer and he was like getting out of this haze, he kind of saw what these aliens looked like. I describe these as the little aliens.
The little aliens?
The little aliens. But these, I guess, would be what you would call grays. If you're familiar with the different types of aliens, grays is a very common, classic.
And I am not.
Type of alien. It's the little gray guys with the big eyes.
Okay, like Communion sort of thing.
What?
Communion was a book.
I don't know that one.
It might have been a TV movie or something, but yeah, short, skinny, oval head, really big, round eyes.
Yeah, he
like
doesn't describe the eyes as being as big as that, like the almond shape that we're kind of used to seeing.
Okay.
He says they were the size of quarters.
Oh, pretty
which
standard.
he describes as double the size of human eyes, but I would guess that a human eye probably is about the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Turned out Travis had never seen a quarter.
Here is how Travis describes the little aliens and his run-ins with them. They were a little under 5 feet in height. They had a basic humanoid form, 2 legs, 2 arms, hands with 5 digits each, and a head with the normal human arrangement of features, but beyond the outline, any similarity to humans was terrifyingly absent.
Terrifyingly absent. All right.
Their thin bones were covered with white, marshmallowy-looking flesh.
Rad.
They had on a single-piece coverall type suit made out of a soft, suede-like material.
Oh,
Orangish brown in color.
stylish.
Very 70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were wearing like suede orange jumpers. Not jumpers, but
They were auto
rompers.
mechanics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or airline pilots. Not airline pilots. Never mind. Fighter pilots is what I was reaching for.
I could not see any grain in the material, such as clothes have. In fact, their clothes did not appear to have any seams, even. I saw no buttons, zippers, or snaps. They wore no belts. Their loose, billowy garments were gathered at their waist and, perhaps, their ankles. They didn't have any kind of raised collar at the neck. They wore simple, pinkish tan footwear.
Wait, so did he make it a point to notice that their collars were not popped?
Yeah.
This is very 70s.
So, well, yes, but here, okay, so that's a good point before I finish off with what he has to say, because, all right, this guy's been abducted by aliens.
He's all about the fashion.
Yeah. Like, he describes a lot of things on the ship, actually, like, but what I'm saying is, like, I don't know, I was in a car accident a couple years ago, and I can barely remember anything of it. Like, there have been, like, major things that have happened in my life, but if you ask me to remember it, I'm like, it was kind of a blur. I vaguely remember something this. I've had surgery.
Yeah.
With a doctor that I knew.
Yeah.
And if you asked me to describe him, I'd be like, he was like an older guy with gray hair. And, like, this was a dude that I knew and, like, met many, many times before talking about the surgery and everything. But
yeah,
I don't remember all the little details.
You did go on and on about his collar, though, at the time.
Yeah, well, he did. He popped his collar. So.
Well, okay. That's the difference between him and the aliens, clearly.
Yeah. All right. Getting back to Mr. Walton's account. I could not make out the details of their shoes.
Okay. No one's asking you to.
But they had very small feet.
All right.
About a size 4 by our measurements.
Well, I mean, that's kind of proportional if they're under 5 feet tall.
Yeah. When they extended their hands towards me, I noticed they had no fingernails. Their hands were small, delicate, and without any hair. Their thin fingers looked soft and unwrinkled. Their smooth skin was so pale that it looked chalky, like ivory.
Ah.
Their bald heads were disproportionately large for their puny bodies.
Okay.
They had bulging, oversized craniums, a small jaw structure, and an underdeveloped appearance to their features that was almost infantile. Their thin-lipped mouths were narrow. I never saw them open. Lying close to their heads on either side were tiny crinkled lobes of ears. Their miniature rounded noses had small oval nostrils. The only facial feature that didn't appear underdeveloped were those incredible eyes. Those glistening orbs had brown irises twice the size of those of a normal human's eyes, nearly an inch in diameter. The iris was so large that even parts of the pupils were hidden by the lids, giving the eyes a certain cat-like appearance. There was very little of the white part of their eye showing. They had no lashes and no eyebrows.
All right. Sounds like maybe they're from a place that's very dark. They have really big pupils and their skin is pasty.
Yeah, well.
But
be.
if their skin is like bleached white, why are they called gray? Is this just like
this is
categorization?
He's describing what would typically be a gray without the color
grayness.
gray.
Okay.
But that is a typical like gray description.
I will take your word for that.
And there is a certain place that these aliens are supposed to be from. I'm blanking on the name now.
An actual place in the universe?
Yeah.
Alpha Centauri or whatever?
No, it's Reticuli. Can't think of the proper name.
It's okay.
I'll get into why that is later on, actually.
Mm.
But so anyway, when he's surrounded by these little aliens, the Doctor aliens, he kind of freaks out, and he's like, "Wait, you back the fuck up." And he gets up because he's got this burst of energy now because his adrenaline's kicked in.
Yeah.
And he picks up what he describes basically as this thing. And
wait. Did you have that quote?
No, I don't have the exact quote. But
this thing.
like a clear thing.
Okay, but no shape or
cylindrical
anything.
object.
He's been so detailed about everything else. He's like, and I picked up a thing, and you won't believe what happened next.
Yeah, and he was like, hey, stay away from me. And he starts swinging at him. And he kind of pushed one of them. And he said that they were like soft to the touch and kind of like mushy. Underneath their clothes.
Yeah.
And then those aliens, and this is an exact quote, scampered off.
Scampered. Very lightly. Cagily.
So he is like, wait a minute. I remember there was like a UFO, flying saucer, and they hit me with a beam, and now I must be on that UFO, I guess.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, well, I got to find a way out of here.
All right.
So he starts walking around. And he says he's walking down these hallways and stuff, but the doors are locked. But he finds one room that's open, and he goes in, and there's a chair, and he's like, oh, this is going to be scary. There's going to be someone sitting in that chair. So he goes, like, in his karate pose, ready to pounce.
Yeah.
And he gets up to the chair, and he, like, jumps in front of it with a, hi-ya!
Wait, really?
No, I don't know, but
Okay.
that's how I picture it. And there's no one in the chair.
Ah.
But he sees the chair, and there's, like, some control-looking things there.
Okay.
So I'm basically
starting to lose me, Travi.
He's basically describing like the Star Trek captain's chair at this point. And he's like, well, there was some. He's very detailed about like, well, there were blue things and there were these black lines and these green buttons. Again, like super detailed now.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I was like, well, if I'm not going to be like their prisoner, so I'll crash this thing if I have to. But as he's like debating all this, another creature appears in the doorway.
A different sort of creature?
Yes.
All right.
This is what I will refer to as...
The blues.
No.
Okay.
You're going to like this even better.
I hope so.
The helmeted Swede.
What is going on? Swede.
Yeah. So the Swedes, this is...
Okay, can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it what I'm thinking?
Maybe.
So very tall,
Yeah.
not small. Striking blue eyes and blonde hair.
Yeah, you got it.
And interesting accent.
Yeah, well, no accent, but the rest of it you got, yeah. So, yeah, this is, again, I will let him describe him, but he turns around and he sees this large blonde man wearing a helmet.
So like Vikings, a
Yeah.
helmeted Swede?
Yeah.
All right.
Standing in the doorway, and this is how he describes this person. He says he was a man of about 6 feet 2 inches tall. His helmeted head barely cleared the doorway. He was extremely muscular and evenly proportioned. He appeared to weigh about 200 pounds. He wore a tight-fitting, bright blue suit of soft material, like velour.
Oh, so he is the blue.
His feet were covered with black boots. A black band or belt wrapped around his middle. He carried no tools or weapons in his belt or in his hands. No insignia marked his clothing.
Yeah, who needs it?
So this guy comes in, the Swede.
Yeah.
So in alien terms, these would be referred to as Swedes or perhaps Nordic aliens.
What?
This is just how they're described.
All right.
These are very common in the 50s, especially in Europe.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, but do they more closely resemble humans than the Greys do?
They look exactly like humans.
Well, okay.
They're supposed to be very attractive, actually.
Right.
Like Swedish people,
Okay.
who are also said to be very attractive.
Yeah. Well, that is a stereotype. I have not been.
We should go.
Oh yeah.
Find out if it's
They're
true.
attractive people there.
Now, this helmet guy, he doesn't say anything to Travis, but he takes him by the arm. And Travis says, like, he just felt like this. First of all, he thought he was a human, like a straight up human.
Yeah.
So he was like, this guy must be here to rescue me. And then, like, he kind of realized that probably wasn't true up to a certain point, but he was like, well, still, he kind of looks like me, so.
So that this is
I'm gonna
preferable.
go. He's not like a terrifying alien like those little guys. So I'm going to go with this guy.
All right.
So he walks out with this helmeted guy, and they now are apparently in some kind of like space station, because he steps out and there's like other UFOs all around.
Oh, neat. So he made the trip.
Yeah. So he's like led down some hallways, and he keeps talking about sliding doors. I don't know. Did sliding doors not exist in 1975?
The supermarket
Like
ones?
yeah, right.
I don't know.
Because he keeps talking about it like it's this super futuristic thing.
When did Star Trek come out?
That was in the late 60s.
Yeah. So that's like, I mean, that was a very big part of Star Trek, was the sliding doors, right?
Yeah, because he goes into great detail about how these doors opened without him touching them. They must not have existed. Because he goes into great detail about how he didn't have to touch the doors for them to open.
Were there stagehands behind them, pulling them aside?
So, anyway, when these doors open, it reveals even more Swedes.
That's the new store I'm going to open. Even more Swedes.
And he describes them this way. He says that there were 2 men and a woman standing around a table. They were all wearing velvety blue uniforms like the first man's, except that they had no helmets. The 2 men had the same muscularity and the same masculine good looks as the first man.
Damn.
The woman also had a face and a figure that was the epitome of her gender.
All right. Well,
Right?
So all right, I'm sure the story goes on, but he's certain that these are just not attractive humans
Apparently.
that don't like to talk.
Yeah.
All right.
They were smooth-skinned
Mm.
and blemishless.
Damn straight.
No moles, freckles, wrinkles, or scars marked their skin.
Why do you think to say these things? It sounds like it may have been a while for old Travie here.
The striking good looks of the man that I had first met became more obvious on seeing them all together.
It's a multiplier.
They shared a family-like resemblance, although they were not identical.
Okay.
So that's how he describes the Swedes.
Yeah, it sounds like a bunch of hot people. I don't know. Doesn't sound too alien.
Yeah, so basically all that happens from here on out to him is that the lady Swede
Okay.
No, it's not that bad.
No, I know, but this is just like, this is a dream you had.
Takes his pants off. No.
Yeah.
She says, "Take me to your wiener."
How dare you?
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. She has like a little gas mask,
Okay.
and she puts it over his face. And he like starts to protest. And by the way, the whole time he's like, "What's going on here? Where are we going? When are you going to let me go?" Like he's asking all these questions,
Yeah.
and no one's like saying shit to this guy.
Well, they speak Swedish.
Yeah. So they put the mask on his face, and he starts to struggle a little bit, but like almost as soon as the mask touches his face, he goes very weak,
Ooh.
and then he disappears into a world of blackness.
An old laughing gas. All right.
The next thing he knows, he wakes up, and he's in the middle of the road. On like
Earth.
a foresty road. He doesn't know exactly where.
Okay.
But he looks up and he sees the flying saucer, and it's like zipping out into space.
Yeah.
But he says it makes no noise as it goes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That's the least weird part so far, so I'll let that go.
So he's like fully dressed and everything. He's not, naked or anything. But he's running down the street and he's trying to get like people to stop and help him, but nobody is. And it's kind of a backcountry road, I guess, anyway.
Yeah.
But he sees a gas station, an Exxon station to be exact.
Thank God.
So he stops at this gas station, and he says, hey, where am I? What's going on here? And the guy at the gas station is like, "You're in Hebner, Arizona."
Okay, which is not far from where they were, or
Apparently, well, I couldn't tell by reading just the story, because I guess I could have looked it up, but I did not do that.
who needs it?
He said this whole thing started in Snowflake, right?
Right.
And I don't know if Snowflake is near Hebner or if he lived near his sister, which is who he ends up calling.
Yeah.
But the sister doesn't answer. His brother-in-law answers.
Okay.
I think his name was Garrett. I'm not sure. Or Gareth or something like that.
Interesting.
But anyway, he's like, "Hey, man, they took me. Eyes. gas mask, blonde, and the guy's like, all right, this isn't funny. I think you have the wrong number. And he hangs up on him, or he's about to hang up on him. And then he's like, no, come on, it's Travis. You got to come get me. I'm in Hebner, Arizona. And the guy's like, okay, I guess like we'll come get you, but this better not be a prank. Because my brother's missing. My brother-in-law's missing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, here. I'm here in Hebner. So the brother-in-law goes to get the legit brother. I think his name was Dylan or Daryl or something like that. See the awesome notes that I take?
Yep.
And they travel the 33 miles to Hebner. So I don't know if Hebner is 33 miles away from where he was abducted or just 33 miles away from where his sister lived.
Okay.
That's why there's a little confusion. But the brother-in-law comes to pick Travis up. And he's like, yeah, they took me and blah, blah, blah. And then the guy's like, well, okay, but listen, we're going to take you to the hospital. It's after midnight. Because he was like, something about work in the morning. He's like, you're not going to work. It's already after midnight. Let's just go to the hospital and get you looked at. And then Travis says, this is how he puts it in his book, okay? If it's already after midnight, I must have been unconscious for a couple hours, I replied shakily. Because I only remember about an hour or maybe an hour and a half inside of that thing. Oh, here's the names. Dwayne. And Grant.
Okay.
I was close-ish on both counts.
Yeah.
Dwayne and Grant looked at me strangely.
I can't imagine.
Travis, feel your face, Dwayne said.
Love it. A little Rip Van Winkle for you.
Good hell.
You can't even swear right.
Can I just get through this dramatic?
No.
Good hell. I just shaved this morning, and it feels like a week's growth.
Oh, I was expecting
I
more.
exclaimed, still not comprehending. Travis, Dwayne said gently, you've been missing for 5 days.
I like the accent you gave.
Yeah, you gotta give character voices.
Yeah.
But that's how he describes it in the book. Now I'm just saying, in real life, is that how you would break it to someone that it's been longer than he thinks? Feel your face. Oh, this is my 3-day beard.
Yeah. How would? Okay.
Yes.
This
process this.
This presumes that this other person knows his grooming habits to a T. That. Oh yeah, he's always clean shaven. This is a big deal. That's odd. All right.
Yeah, it's just a weird detail and a weird even if it is true, which I don't think it is, but even if it is true, that's a weird way to break that to someone. But anyway, so from this we learned that it's been 5 days.
5 days.
Yeah.
It's like a bad screenplay he wrote. Emphasis on bad.
Yeah, well, we'll have to watch the movie.
Okay.
But another interesting little thing here is since he's been missing for 5 days, the police were looking for him on day 1 because those lumberjacks had gone and said, like, hey, this happened to our buddy. Well, the police, according to Mr. Walton, thought that perhaps these lumberjacks had murdered him, and this was like their cover story. But I couldn't find any real like official confirmation on this, that they ever were a suspect or that it was ever thought to be anything than a possible hoax or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely like an interesting detail to add to something, but it's just, I don't know, maybe not true. Okay, because
can we go back just a little bit? You said the cops were looking for him on the first day. What, they stopped? Like,
I didn't mean like they stopped on the first day, but like from the first day, they'd been made aware of his disappearance.
They thought it was an actual thing and not just some dumb prank. Like, they took it seriously.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't look too hard, but I didn't find any like newspaper articles like missing Snowflake Man. I mean, Snowflake like
Man.
Yeah. I didn't find anything like that. But again, I didn't look too hard. This is, after all, technically a comedy podcast, not a news program.
We ain't trying to teach you nothing.
And that's what you're getting. I was close on those names, though.
You are?
Yeah. Because what I say, Dwayne and...
You did say...
No, it is Dwayne.
You did say Gareth.
Gareth.
Which is kind of an uncommon name in southern Arizona.
Well, I thought it was either Gareth or Garrett, and it was Grant, so I wasn't too far off.
Not too bad.
All right, then. So what we have to think about now is this a real thing that happened in any way, shape, or form? Is any part of it real? Or was it fake? And if it's fake, was this a hoax that involved all 7 people? Or was it some kind of hallucination? Or what? Brian is making a series of faces. Let's find out what they mean.
I am baking up in here. Well, these people are still alive, all of them?
I don't know if all of them are, but I think the majority of them at least.
But
Travis definitely is.
And then the other 6 just... It seems like he took this and kind of ran pretty hard with it. Do they care after? Like, did they ever talk about it?
Yes. Well, apparently that year, I'm not sure exactly how quickly this happened. On Wikipedia, it says in the days following. I don't know if that means like immediately following or sometime
that means
after.
Wikipedia does not know.
Yeah. But the National Enquirer...
Oh, boy. Reputable news source. Let's go.
Awarded Walton and his coworkers a $5,000 grand prize for best UFO case of the year.
It's like a fiction contest. I like it. All right.
They also agreed to take polygraph exams.
Okay.
And all of them passed except for one whose results were deemed inconclusive.
Administered by the National Enquirer?
Don't worry about it.
I'm kind of worried.
Yeah, no, they were actually administered by the Enquirer.
You know how good they are.
And a UFO organization.
One of them.
What could be the possible vested interest that these people would have in...
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Lie detectors, polygraph machines are notoriously unreliable.
Not great anyway.
You can't even use them in a court of law.
Nope.
So whether it said they passed or failed, I wouldn't put too much credence on that one way or the other. I think it's just kind of a thing. That's all.
It's not a thing that they used to be. Yeah, used to think was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, here's something interesting. Walton and his older brother and his mother were all described by the Navajo County, Arizona sheriff as, quote, longtime students of UFOs.
All right. Yeah. Well, okay. It just seems like such wish fulfillment for this guy. If he was into it and these archetypes already existed, he barely bothers to change them at all. And
well, I'm glad you brought that up.
Well,
because
that's
brings
why I'm here.
Me to my next quote. There's a psychologist named Susan Clancy, and she wrote a whole book about UFOs and alien abduction stories and stuff. And she argues that alien abduction reports began only after the stories of these alien encounters started to appear on TV and things like that. And she also notes that the Walton abduction case took place just about 2 weeks after NBC aired a TV movie called The UFO Incident. Now, this was a dramatized depiction of the alleged alien abduction of Beverly and Barney Hill, which is a famous case because it's kind of the first modern abduction story. And it features what would become known as gray aliens. The pickup is almost exactly the same. They thought they saw something like the sun in the sky, and they were driving down a country road. Aliens picked them up and examined them. They did talk to the aliens more. The aliens were not frightening at all in their story. I actually saw a later interview with Betty Hill. We'll do a whole separate episode about their story. But Betty was describing it as... the idea of the gray aliens, that's not really what they looked like. They looked different.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's
essentially the same story, except that the aliens were a little bit more friendly and a little bit more chatty.
Well, they're more friendly because these people didn't pick up a transparent thing and start whacking people with it. But you said it was Betty Hill?
Yeah.
Okay, I swear you said Beverly Hill the first time.
Well, it's Betty Hill and Barney Hill.
Betty and Barney.
Yeah.
Radical.
Just to point out, this was in the 50s or 60s. I'm not sure, but they were an interracial couple, which was unusual at the time.
That's nice.
And coming forward with a UFO story, which was also unusual.
Yeah,
so
they're not making it easy for themselves.
Ways.
Yeah. That's funny.
So, Clancy noted. So remember that psychologist Clancy, Susan Clancy that I mentioned.
Yeah.
She noted that the rise in alien abductions always seem to follow a movie like this. So she's basically just saying that, like, after seeing a movie like this, someone with a little bit of imagination could just go out and make a similar claim, and then, hey, they're an instant celebrity.
Check me out.
And if you're thinking, well, why would Travis Walton want to bring this kind of attention on himself? Well, he already got the $5,000 prize. Now, he had to share that with his cohorts, of course.
Right.
But then in 1978, Travis Walton wrote a book called The Walton Experience about his claims. And the book then became the basis for the 1993 film Fire in the Sky by Paramount Pictures.
It's interesting. How do you turn that into an hour and a half movie?
Well, guess what?
There's not a lot there.
That's exactly what Paramount Pictures said.
So they took some creative liberties?
They sure did.
All right.
They decided Walton's account was too fuzzy and too similar to other televised close encounter stories. So they ordered a screenwriter named Tracy Torme.
Great name.
To write a flashier, more provocative abduction story. And this really kind of becomes a horror movie. Instead of like the grays, you kind of get the gray looking aliens, but they're like orangey, and they put this like flesh sheet over him and he screams, and there's all these like probings and all that kind of stuff that was super popular in the late 80s, early 90s.
Why did probing
stories.
Weird.
So I know I'd prefer the Swedes if I'm going to get abducted.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much going on right now.
Tell us about
it. I don't know. I don't know where to begin. I just think that it's interesting that they took something that was ostensibly to him a real life incident, and unless it wasn't, and he knew he was lying. And why was that an inspiration for anything? Because they clearly thought it was too boring, and so they jazzed it up a little. Why not just make a movie about aliens?
Yeah,
there's enough material out there.
Yeah, and it wasn't a very good movie overall, if I remember correctly.
I can't imagine.
Well, the thing was, like, this was during the time when I was A, really afraid of these things, and B, really into these things.
Yeah.
And it didn't grab me. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like, because it seemed like something I really should have liked.
Yeah.
And I was just like, meh.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Any actors of note in that movie?
Robert Patrick is in it.
Oh, okay. All right.
And who plays Travis Walton? It's not D.B. Wong, but it's another initial guy. It's not D.B. Wong.
I was going to say he's an Asian man.
Asian gentleman. Yeah. But a fine actor, but definitely an Asian gentleman.
Well, he plays he's in, never mind. This isn't important, but he's in Gotham and plays a traditionally not Asian character, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, all right.
Dr. Strange. Dr. Hugo Strange.
Oh, no, he's not Asian usually. Good
anyway.
for him.
Anyway.
So I forget his name, but it's one of those initials guys. And you'd know the name probably if I said it, but I'm going to keep that to myself.
Fair enough.
You can do a little research on your own. Look, man, I do the show almost every week. It's
Listen.
tough. You can't get everything right all the time.
Just
right?
barely, though.
Right, Garrett?
You're very close.
So you might be wondering whatever happened to old Travis. And
I was.
Yeah, well, he lives his life, but he regularly appears at UFO conventions, which is a thing apparently. And if you go to his website, you can see ones that he's been at. Apparently, not too long ago, he was at one here in Massachusetts, in Leominster, of all places.
Nah, I don't know if that's an of all places. That kind of tracks for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is kind of a strange little town, but Leominster's like, it's kind of out there.
It is out there.
Yeah, home of Johnny Appleseed, though.
Yep. Plastics capital of the Northeast.
That's true, too. Yeah.
Yep. Welcome back to Leominster Talk with Eric and Brian.
Yeah. All right. So, but yeah, he appears at these things, and he's on a lot of TV shows about it too. Like I said, you can find clips of him on YouTube. If you need to fall asleep sometime, it's probably a really good thing to listen to. As I said, he's as good a storyteller as my brother, who will tell you stories like this. And there's no reason for it. Like, what are you pausing for?
For effect, baby. Yeah, I can see where that would be infuriating.
Here's an interesting thing. In 2008, Walton appeared on the game show, The Moment of Truth. That was a game show where they used to hook people up to lie detectors.
Jeepers. All right.
The most famous one is like when they ask, like, were you cheating on your wife when she was pregnant? You know,
That's
something like that.
That was Hack in 1998.
Yeah. Well, he went on and was asked, like, hey, remember how you said that on November 5th, 1975, you were, like, kidnapped by aliens? Was that true? And he was like, yes, totally it was. And the lie detector said, he's lying.
Interesting.
Now, I already said I don't put too much stake in lie detectors to begin with.
Well, this time it was run by the Sun, so a completely different set of people.
Yeah, well, this time it's, what, was that a Fox show, I think?
That sounds like a Fox show, but that sounds like a Fox show in 1998. Doesn't sound like that was not 10 years ago.
Yeah, well.
As we just discussed. My grasp of math.
Yeah.
Basic arithmetic.
So what are your final thoughts on the Travis Walton fire in the sky UFO abduction case?
It had such a strong beginning. Like 6 lumberjacks run up to a cop and said, our friend has been abducted and smashed with a blue beam. And it kind of, as soon as old Travie took over, it kind of fizzled. I mean, I'm very interested in this Swede thing. I was not aware that this was an archetype at all, and I'm going to store that away for future reference. But yeah, to borrow an X-Files phrase, I do want to believe, and I guess I statistically think that there probably are some sort of beings somewhere in outer space, but it's also as likely that there are as it is that there aren't. And even if there were, they probably would never see us, and we'd never see them. But it'd be totally dope if they actually did come. And I think everybody thinks that, and that's why.
I don't know if it would be totally dope.
Well, it depends.
I kind of believe in that theory that
it's Independence Day versus Arrival, man.
Yeah. I'm just pulling up a picture for Brian now. This is from Travis Walton's website. This is a rendering of the Swedes.
What on earth? All right. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and dispute this.
This picture will be available on spookyas.com.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this was a wet dream he had. What is occurring? And I think you asked earlier, why make this up? Why do you make this up? Maybe because cutting down trees is so boring you can't even believe it. And anything to break the monotony. Yeah. If there are any lumberjacks out there, prove me wrong. Tell me exciting stories of your craft.
We're looking at another picture now. This is him with the little aliens in the orange outfits with the pink shoes, and you can see he is holding up the clear thing.
Yep.
And threatening them. And he does appear to be wearing bell bottoms as well.
Artist rendering.
Very good.
That's how the artist indicated it was the 70s.
Yeah.
Even lumberjacks were wearing bell-bottomed jeans out in the field.
So my final thoughts on this is I do believe that this is a hoax. And I do think that they were all in on it. Just my humble opinion, of course. Travis, if you're out there listening, I've got other people writing in to tell me how wrong I was about certain things. So you write on in too, and we can arrange an interview if you want. But I'd be interested to hear about it. I want to hear more about these Swedes.
You think he Googles himself? Like, this is going to come up for him?
It could. He could.
It's possible.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to an end here on this episode. Once again, I invite you to check out spookyas.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyas, where you can see all the pictures that I'm going to post from this episode, and just generally have a good time with all your spookaroo friends.
Yep. Captain Spookaroo, that's
so
you.
I'm going to close the show in
laconic fashion.
Travis Walton's style.
Let it breathe, man.
So don't be afraid.